I'm Clara, the one who jumped out of the family circus into the big city zoo after college. Sold pet products like they were going out of style and finally opened my own little spot, Clara's Critter Corner. It was my slice of heaven in a concrete jungle, just a hop, skip, and a jump from my apartment. Hitting up pet expos and vet clinics became my jam. That's where the world threw Ella at me. She was all class, working at one of those high-end vet clinics, and we clicked over the latest in chew toys and cat condos. Not long after, I found myself hanging out at her place, swapping life stories over cups of tea. Ella had this son, Alex. A vet, like her, but with this laid-back vibe that screamed I'd rather be at a beach than a clinic. He started showing up more, just passing by. Ella had this twinkle in her eye every time he did, and I wasn't clueless. But, honestly, the guy was easy on the eyes, and those little visits turned into coffee dates, which turned into dinner plans. We were a thing before I knew it. He was like a live wire, always moving, always shaking things up. Our first real outing felt more like a spontaneous adventure than a date. Coffee turned into a sprint through a sudden downpour, which somehow ended with us soaked to the bone, laughing in a diner booth at some hole-in-the-wall place. "Life's too short for sitting still, don't you think?" he'd say, eyes twinkling with that daredevil gleam of his. And I, who'd built a life around order and routine, found myself nodding along, caught up in his whirlwind. Our conversations were never dull. He'd toss ideas at me like fireworks, each one more vibrant and wild than the last. "Ever think about hosting a pet fashion show at your store?" he'd suggest out of the blue, and I'd laugh, not because it was absurd, but because with him, it somehow seemed possible. With Alex, I found myself stepping into a world where the unexpected was the norm, and I loved it. He challenged me, pushed me, made me see the world through a lens that was constantly shifting, constantly alive. It was exhilarating, the way he could shake up the mundane, turn the everyday into an adventure. And despite the chaos, or maybe because of it, I found myself drawn to him, to the storm that he was. It wasn't all roses, though. Alex had this way of life that was, let's just say, more laid back than mine. Friends, parties, the works. The guy knew everyone, and everyone knew him. It was a lot. But Ella, she had faith. Said we could reform him. Me? I had my doubts, but love's got a way of making you see the best in people. The thing about life is, it's unpredictable. One day you're selling dog leashes, the next you're sitting across from your boyfriend's mom, getting hit with the marriage talk. Yeah, that festive dinner at Ella's wasn't just about celebrating her legendary meatloaf. "So, what do you think about marriage, Clara?" Ella asked, pouring another round of her too-strong homemade wine. "The kind that sneaks up on you." I almost spat my drink. "Marriage? Ella, Alex and I are just, figuring things out." Ella chuckled. "Figuring things out, huh? You've been figuring things out for 2 years now." Alex, who'd been suspiciously quiet, finally piped up. "Mom, give Clara a break. We're good, aren't we?" He flashed me that grin, the one that made my heart do somersaults even when I wanted to wring his neck. "We're something, all right," I muttered, giving him a look. Ella leaned in, her eyes all sparkly. "Clara, I'm not getting any younger. I want to see my boy settled. And I've seen how you two are together. You're good for each other." "Settled? Ella, your son is like a kite without a string on a windy day," I said, half joking, but dead serious. Alex laughed. "That's fair. But you're like the weight keeping me from flying off." "In a good way," he added quickly, seeing my eyebrow raise. Ella wasn't backing down. "Listen, I know Alex can be a bit much. But together, I know you can navigate through anything." I took a sip of my wine, buying time. "Ella, it's not about navigating. It's about him blowing cash on nonsense while I'm penny pinching to keep the business afloat. How's that gonna work in a marriage?" "Marriage is about teamwork, Clara. Sharing the load. And I know my son. He needs a strong partner. Someone like you," Ella said, her voice soft but firm. Alex reached for my hand. Clara, I know I can be a handful. But I'm serious about us. About making this work. We can figure out the finances together. I looked at him, really looked. Behind the charm and the carefree attitude, there was something else. A willingness, maybe even a need, to grow up. But could he? Could we? Alex, your version of financial planning is seeing how far you can stretch a dollar at happy hour, I said, half smiling to take the sting out. Hey, I get 2 for 1. That's planning, he quipped, but his smile faded. I get it, Clara. I do. I need to do better. For us. Ella watched us, her expression hopeful. Think about it, Clara. You don't have to decide now. But I see something beautiful here. Something worth fighting for. The room was silent for a moment, the weight of her words hanging in the air. I took another sip of wine, feeling its warmth spread through me. Let's say we do this marriage thing. It's not gonna be easy, Alex. You need to step up. No more childish spending sprees. And Ella, no bailing him out. We're in this together, but we play by my rules. Financial responsibility isn't optional. Alex nodded. I hear you, Clara. I'm in. All in. Ella beamed. That's all I wanted to hear. We'll figure out the rest together. As I sat there, looking at the two of them, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and sheer terror. Marrying into this family was going to be like jumping onto a moving train. But then again, life's about taking chances, right? And maybe, just maybe, this was a chance worth taking. So, I raised my glass to figuring it out together. Ella and Alex echoed the toast, their glasses clinking against mine. And just like that, my predictable life of pet supplies and quiet evenings alone got a whole lot more complicated. But as I looked into Alex's eyes, seeing the genuine promise of effort, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, with a lot of work and a little bit of luck, we could turn this unexpected proposal into something real. Something lasting. Life after tying the knot with Alex was a wild ride, kinda like being strapped into a roller coaster that you can't get off of. The dude worked his tail off at the clinic, I'll give him that. Money was coming in, sure, but it was flowing out just as fast. Every other week, Alex was either flashing a new watch that cost more than our rent or blowing $1,000 on ties fancier than anything I'd ever owned. Then there were the parties. Man, could he throw down. Every time he snagged some award or recognition at work, it was an excuse to hit the town with his squad, dropping more cash in one night than I dared to spend in a month. I tried sitting him down, laying it out plain and simple. Alex, we gotta start saving, thinking about the future, you know? Might as well have been talking to the wall. And kids? Forget about it. Every time I brought it up, he'd dodge the topic like a pro. It was clear, settling down, really settling down, wasn't on his radar. That stung more than I expected. Ella, bless her heart, was on another level. She'd always been the type to handle her business, money-wise. But with retirement, she started tightening the purse strings, getting real about her expenses. That's when she dropped the idea on us, let's get serious about the family budget. Time to pool resources, track every dime. Sounded like a lifeline to me. So, we opened this joint account, a pot for all things house and home. At first, Alex was on board, chucking in a decent share. But like clockwork, his enthusiasm fizzled. Payments became, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, until tomorrow never came. One evening, I cornered him, ready for a showdown. Alex, we talked about this. You, me, your mom, we're a team now. Time to act like it. He just shrugged, that maddening, laid-back shrug of his. Clara, this is just how things have been, you know? Mom's always had the bills and groceries covered. I take care of my own stuff. Why mess with a good thing? A good thing? My blood boiled. A good thing? Alex, we're supposed to be building a life here, not running some freewheeling bachelor pad. Things need to change. His reply was a cold splash of reality. Change? Clara, this is me. It's always been this way. Why start pinching pennies now? Life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, and mine came in the form of 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. Heart pounding, I broke the news to Alex, hoping, praying for a flicker of joy, a spark of excitement. His reaction? Cold enough to freeze hell over. Clara, are we sure we want to keep it? He tossed out, casual as if discussing the weather. The words hit like a sucker punch. I stood there, stunned, my heart sinking to my toes. Absolutely. I shot back, my voice laced with steel. This isn't up for debate. Ella, on hearing the news, wrapped me in a hug, her support unwavering. We're in this together, dear, she assured, a rock in the storm that was brewing. Juggling the pet store with morning sickness was a Herculean task. Every day felt like running a marathon with lead shoes. So, I did what I had to do, pivoted to online sales, rented a warehouse near Ella's, to ease the load. The digital leap was a lifeline, keeping my dream afloat as I navigated the rough waters of pregnancy. Then, as if life decided I hadn't had enough, Ella fell sick, landed straight in the hospital. My heart was torn between worry for her and anger at Alex, who couldn't be bothered to show his face at the clinic. Every day, I was there, holding Ella's hand, whispering promises of better days, while Alex, God knows where he was. Bringing Ella home was another chapter in the saga. I became nurse, caretaker, daughter she never had. Meanwhile, Alex was off gallivanting with his pals, as if his mother lying weak in bed was someone else's problem. Can't you spare a moment for your own mother? I finally exploded one evening when he breezed in past midnight, reeking of booze and bad decisions. She's got you, hasn't she? He retorted, a smirk playing on his lips that I itched to wipe off. Ella's your mother, Alex. Your mother. I spat the words, each one dripping with contempt. She needs us, not just me. But my words were rain against a window, seen but not felt. Alex shrugged off the responsibility like it was nothing, leaving me to wonder how the man I married had vanished so completely. Bringing a new life into the world should have been the kind of joy you shout from the rooftops. But when that day came, the echo of my joy bounced off walls built up by Alex's absence and indifference. Our baby boy, Lucas, was perfect, a tiny bundle of hope in a tangled mess of disillusion. Ella was my rock, stepping up in ways I never imagined. He's beautiful, Clara. Just perfect, she cooed, cradling Lucas with a grandmother's pride that outshone the dimness of the hospital room. Thanks, Ella. I don't know what I'd do without you, I murmured, exhaustion battling with gratitude. Alex's introduction to his son was brief, a fleeting moment that should have lingered. He's got your eyes, was all he offered before his attention slid away, back to his phone, to a world that didn't involve dirty diapers or midnight feedings. The first few weeks blurred into a cycle of feedings, diaper changes, and stolen moments of sleep. Through it all, Ella was my pillar, while Alex, well, he might as well have been a ghost for all the help he was. One evening, as I tried to balance the books for the online store with Lucas finally asleep in my arms, I confronted Alex. Can't you see we need you here? Not just physically, but really here, with us? Alex shrugged, a gesture that seemed to be his new mode of communication. Clara, you've got this parenting thing down. Besides, I'm not cut out for the baby stage. It's all crying and stuff. Stuff? That stuff is your son, Alex. Your flesh and blood, I shot back, frustration simmering. You think I've got it all figured out? I'm winging it every single day, hoping I don't mess up. We're supposed to be in this together. He looked at me, really looked, for the first time in what felt like forever. Clara, I just don't know how to be the dad you want me to be. It's not about being the dad I want, Alex. It's about being the dad Lucas needs. He needs his father. And I need my husband, not a roommate who disappears at the first sign of responsibility. The words hung heavy between us, a chasm of unmet expectations and fading hopes. Ella, overhearing, chimed in. Alex, love, being a parent is about learning on the job. You won't know until you try. And trust me, your boy will love you for just being there." Her words, meant to bridge the gap, fell on deaf ears. Alex mumbled something about needing air and left, the door closing softly behind him. In his absence, Ella and I found a rhythm, a new normal, that saw us through each day. Our home was filled with the sounds of Lucas's gurgles and giggles, a bittersweet symphony that underscored what was missing. "Clara, you're doing an amazing job. Lucas is lucky to have you," Ella said one night as we sat exhausted but content in the living room. "Thanks, Ella. We're lucky to have you, too." As for Alex, I just wish he realized what he's missing. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the gap between Alex and us widened. Old habits, it seemed, died hard. And as I watched Lucas grow, a tiny heart beating with potential, I couldn't help but wonder what it would take for Alex to see the treasure before him, to trade old habits for new beginnings. The day started like any other, with the routine hustle of managing my online store while balancing the demands of motherhood. It was during one of Lucas's naps that I decided to check our family account, a routine task that had become second nature. What I found was anything but routine. $20,000, our hard-earned savings, painstakingly accumulated for Lucas's future, was missing. A cold sweat broke out as I frantically scrolled through the transaction history, my heart sinking with each click. The withdrawal was flagged just 2 days ago. Without a second thought, I grabbed my phone and dialed Alex. "Alex, we need to talk. Now." "It's about the bank account," I said, my voice trembling with barely contained anger. "What's up?" His casual tone was like a slap across my face. "Where's the $20,000, Alex? It's gone. Vanished. Please, tell me there's a good explanation for this," I pleaded, clinging to a shred of hope that there was a misunderstanding. There was a pause on the line, a hesitation that spoke volumes before he replied. "Look, Clara, it was a matter of life or death. I had to use it." "A matter of life or death?" "Alex, what could possibly—" I began, but he cut me off. "We'll talk when I get home, okay? Just, trust me," he said before hanging up. The hours until his return were agonizing, filled with worst-case scenarios and a growing sense of dread. When I finally heard the sound of a car pulling up, I rushed to the window, expecting an ambulance, a police car, anything that signaled a genuine emergency. Instead, I saw a sleek, new sports car gleaming in the driveway. Alex walked in with a swagger, the car keys twirling around his finger. "What do you think? Nice, right?" I stared at him, disbelief clouding my vision. "Nice? You spent our savings on a car? Alex, please tell me this is a joke." He shrugged, unfazed by my distress. I needed something reliable. Something that makes a statement. "It was a great deal, Clara." "A great deal?" My voice rose in pitch, a mix of incredulity and rage. "We had plans for that money, Alex. For Lucas's future. How could you be so selfish?" He leaned against the kitchen counter, the picture of nonchalance. "I'll drive it. Besides, you always wanted a family car. This isn't exactly it, but you can take care of the loan. Consider it a thank you for marrying me," he said, his arrogance stinging like salt in an open wound. I felt my knees weaken under the weight of his betrayal. "Thank you? For marrying me? Is that what our marriage is to you? A transaction?" He sighed, a sound of exasperation that fueled my anger. "I'm tired of this, Clara. Tired of the arguments, of feeling trapped. If you can't handle this, maybe you should just leave," he said, tossing a stack of papers on the table. Among them, the divorce papers stood out, a testament to the depth of his indifference. Signed. Sealed. Delivering the final blow to our crumbling marriage. "This is what you want?" I asked, the fight draining from my voice as the reality of his betrayal settled in. "It's for the best. We're clearly on different paths," he replied, his tone devoid of any emotion. The room spun as I processed the magnitude of his actions. Not only had he jeopardized our son's future, but he'd also unilaterally decided to end our marriage, all for a fleeting symbol of status. As Alex's words, cold and detached, filled the air, Ella walked in, Lucas cradled in her arms. The sight of her grandson, oblivious to the pain around him, seemed to strengthen her resolve. Hearing the talk of divorce, Ella's expression hardened. "I've made my decision," she declared, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "I'm staying with Clara and Lucas. They're my family now." Alex, taken aback, stared at his mother, disbelief etched across his face. "Mom, you can't be serious. She's practically a stranger, compared to your own son." Ella shook her head, a mixture of sorrow and determination in her eyes. "Clara has shown more strength and commitment to this family than you ever have, Alex. I spoiled you, gave you everything, hoping it would fill the void your father left. But all it did was make you selfish, irresponsible." Turning to face Alex squarely, Ella's next words were a gut punch. "I'm ashamed of what you've become. I'm disowning you, Alex. And as for my will, I'm changing it. Clara and Lucas are my priority now." Alex's shock turned to anger, his voice rising in defense. "I'm your son, your blood. You're going to choose them over me?" Ella's response was unwavering. "Clara has proven herself more of a family to me than you have in years. It's time you learn to stand on your own, to understand the value of money and family." The finality in her voice brooked no argument. "Return the $20,000 you took from Clara, or I swear, we'll take legal action. You've crossed a line, and it's time you face the consequences." The room fell silent, the weight of Ella's words hanging heavily in the air. Alex, defeated and alone, collected his things in silence, the reality of his choices finally dawning on him. As he left, Ella turned to me, her eyes softening. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I never intended for things to turn out this way. But I promise you, Lucas and you are my family now. We'll get through this together." After the dust settled from the storm of my marriage's end, life took on a new rhythm, a melody composed of resilience, hard work, and unexpected bonds. The divorce papers were signed, turning a page I never expected to write in my life story. But here we were, me, Ella, and Lucas, creating a new definition of family. Ella had been more than just a mother-in-law. In the wake of Alex's departure, she became my anchor, and together, we were determined to provide Lucas with a solid foundation, one built on love, respect, and the kind of hard work that molds character. "Lucas will know the value of responsibility, of earning his keep," I mused aloud one evening as Ella and I sat, planning the week ahead. "We're going to raise him to be the man Alex never chose to be." Ella nodded, her agreement silent but resolute. "He'll be better for it, Clara. With us guiding him, how could he not?" The irony of our situation wasn't lost on us. Alex, who had floated away on a cloud of his own making, was a distant figure in the life of his son, a cautionary tale of wasted potential and misplaced priorities. Rumors of his spiraling debt and lavish expenditures on frivolities reached us through the grapevine, each tale a reaffirmation of the bullet we'd dodged. Our focus remained undeterred. My online pet store, born out of necessity, had flourished into a thriving business, providing not just for our immediate needs, but allowing us to look ahead with optimism. The lessons of the past, of Alex's failings, and our own trials, were the bedrock on which I built my enterprise. Ella, ever the matriarch, took a bold step to secure our future further. Rewriting her will, she made Lucas and me the heirs to her legacy, a gesture that cemented our bond and commitment to each other and to the values we aimed to instill in Lucas. "As long as I'm around, you two will never want for anything," Ella declared, her words not just a promise, but a vow. "This family, what we have here, it's worth more than any material wealth." Her actions spoke louder than words, a testament to her belief in us, in the family we'd become. Together, we faced the future not as remnants of a broken past, but as architects of our destiny, united by love and a shared vision for what lay ahead. "We're doing okay, aren't we, Ella?" I asked one evening, as we watched Lucas play in the garden, his laughter a balm to the scars of the past. We're doing more than okay, Clara. We're thriving, Ella replied, her hand squeezing mine. Together, there's nothing we can't overcome.